Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, and what a football weekend it was, and certainly it featured things on and off the field of wildly varying emotions. Let's go chronologically a little bit before we get to Stan right after our first time out. On Friday, Missouri managed to get a victory over Arkansas 24-14, but the die had already been cast by athletic director Jim Sterk, who on Saturday would fire Barry Odom after 4 seasons of exactly 500 football. We'll see what the future holds for Missouri football and what the hire that makes this question create potential good answers will be, and we'll discuss that with Stan coming up. Then on Saturday, Kansas got their heads handed to them in their final game against Baylor, putting some question marks into what at times has been a very promising first season under Les Miles, who immediately was ready to turn the page towards recruiting. And Kansas State, what a way to finish off their regular season. Big victory and solid victory over Iowa State, which produces an 8-win season and potentially a very good bowl game for the Cats as well. So lots to chew on today as we get ready for another great edition of Danny and Stan's Football Weekend right here on Danny Clinkscale's Reasonably Irreverent podcast. We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Stan, the Chiefs certainly took care of business yesterday in a game that, for Chiefs fans, I guess it was fun. For the neutral observer, it probably was one where you flipped away after Juan Thornhill takes it into the house 21-0. I think this game is kind of difficult. First of all, it's a great win. Chiefs created no drama whatsoever. Raiders completely threw the game in their lap in the first quarter, and they took it and ran with it and extended out the lead. The fallout of it is interesting to me. I think we're getting a little bit of a narrative now that this defense has arrived or something, and I'm not so sure that it's just not a couple of bad quarterback performances in a row. But then again, building blocks, confidence, and also I do think the Chiefs' pass defense is legitimate.
Well, I do, and I think that they showed an example with the interceptions they've had in the last couple of weeks, that they're not so much quarterback-driven of awful play as their quarterback's completely fooled by the defense, and that's a really good sign. Yesterday, if you saw the highlight or replay, they triangled a couple receivers and were playing a zone concept, but it was really hard to read if you're the quarterback. And so when you anticipate where you're going with the ball, you don't think you're throwing it into danger, and all of a sudden, Juan Thornhill's running the other direction with the football, and the quarterback's legitimately saying, like, what just happened? I mean, I did not expect that. He made a good play on the ball, catching it, and then Tyrann Mathieu' interception, when he picked off Rivers, that was big time. He came completely across the field. There's no way Phillip Rivers in Mexico City knew that when he threw the ball down the left hash that he was going to get it picked off, because Juan Thornhill came out of nowhere. So, one thing is, that was not Juan Thornhill.
That was Mathieu.
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu. Mathieu obviously has good instincts. That's why you brought him on board, is to make plays that are kind of special and unique, and he's done that. So right now I cannot sort out how much of it's the call by Spagnuolo or his anticipation and getting to the right spot. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It still counts. And the defensive coordinator, I'm not cutting him down. Spagnuolo deserves the credit if that is happening and his guys making that kind of instinctual play. That's part of being a defensive coordinator, knowing how to put your guys in a situation where once in a while they break out of the box. You think like a Ray Lewis or something. Peters here for the Chiefs, we saw some of his best play was when he didn't listen to the coach and said, I think I know what's going on better than me following that receiver downfield. I'm going to run up here and pick this off. A little bit of that is very good. And in the coverage overall, the cornerbacks are not breaking down. We mentioned this 5 or 6 weeks ago that the Chiefs haven't just sat tight with the run defense. They've addressed it. And they address it by bringing guys up to the line of scrimmage, which means the cornerbacks have even less help back behind. So it's a great compliment to their play that you're not seeing receivers open all over the place and saying, well, why is he open? And then, guys like Tony Romo able to get out the telestrator and go, well, because the safeties are here for most teams, but they're not for the Chiefs. They're up at the line of scrimmage. So it's coming together. The Chiefs are doing what they need to. Can they stop the run when they have to? I don't think so. But
we saw yesterday that the Raiders looked like they were going to be able to run the ball, but they got the game was out of hand so fast that it became irrelevant. I mean,
the run game doesn't matter when the scoreboard lights up enough in the other team's favor, and that's what happened last year. Is that Patrick Mahomes was scoring the first 2 possessions, and no offensive coordinator has the guts to sit there and be behind 14-3 and pound the rock. And that kind of happened yesterday. The Chiefs got ahead.
It's 21-0. I mean, even in that case, you kind of sort of have to start throwing.
But the penalties are what killed the Raiders. And some can argue that you're more likely to get a holding call in the running game. So the ones who, remember we started the debate earlier this year, does the run game even matter? That's a feather in the cap of the guys arguing you are going to get a holding call against you. You can't pound the ball every down without the officials finally going, this is not right. You can't run 6 straight times in the NFL. The officials just don't feel good about it. So they're going to say, I could have called holding many times, but now I'm going to do it. And when the Raiders had the holding call, one time they overcame it with a little pass over the middle and ended up running for the first down. But basically they could not overcome the penalty. It was a game about Derek Carr in my mind going into the game. That's what I said. Going into the game that he was the variable. When he plays at his best, the Raiders are a pretty good football team, but he's not always going to play his best. He's all over the board, and we all know the stat. He's 0-8 in games where the temperature is less than 45 degrees or whatever it was, and he played bad. He had a shocked look on his face early in the game because I thought Andy Reid did a pitiful job of letting them stay in the game. Up 7-0, a free fumble on a kickoff return, 4th down, just you're the better team. The Raiders got a shocked look on their face, just kicked the field goal, 10-0, double-digit lead. This game's over. And instead went for 4th down, missed it, and the Raiders had a new chance to come back. And if it wasn't for a holding call, they might have driven the ball down.
Also, it was Andy Reid seemingly freezing into the 1950s or something. He's got Patrick Mahomes. I don't think you can just run the ball up the middle on 3rd and 4th down when you have Patrick Mahomes. I don't, and also now it's just become like, well, 4th and 1, you got to go for it or you're not a man. So
we've totally lost
either
our
one,
head.
either run a play that's a little bit different than the 3rd down play, or I was with you. I said, kick the field goal. Don't give them any chance at momentum. They're already feeling swamped in this game. They'll be 2 scores down instantly. But no, they didn't do it. They really gave the chance for the Raiders to have life, and the Raiders started to go on a nice drive after that, which they killed themselves with penalties again. So they couldn't get out of their own way. But I agree with you. I totally think they should have taken the kick then. But it's just become almost like, well, what kind of a coach are you? Are you a pansy? Go for 4th down. Be a man.
I know. I mean, I just laugh because I've been a big Dallas Cowboy fan, so I have nothing against Troy Aikman. But I text my buddies, every time Troy gets on a broadcast and it gets near 4th down, he goes, I think they ought to go for it here. And I go, that is so predictable. He doesn't think about the situation anymore. He just says, I think they ought to go for it. We've totally let the pendulum swing now, where it used to be everyone would punt or kick field goals and not go for 4th down, and now everyone wants to do it. And
especially when it's not for a touchdown or something. That's what I don't understand. It's as if at the 27-yard line, if you make the 1st down, it's a touchdown. It's not. You still got to go in there and get a touchdown.
Hit it, Danny. There you go. You can go for 4th down for touchdowns, but when you go for 4th down and you make it and then you kick a field goal 3 plays later or 5 plays later, does anyone remember that you took the risk of not having that field goal?
Right.
You can say, well, it was windy. No, Becker blew a 51-yarder through like no big deal. So, no, I'm really surprised. They let the Raiders have a bit of life right there. But then John Gruden, trying to outdo anybody for dumb decisions, takes out their good running back on a 4th-and-1 play.
And runs wide.
But, Tony Romo was explaining it. Well, they're not going to give the ball to that big guy. You're probably going to hit it on the edge here. They're probably going to hand it off to the wide receiver. He was talking it through when the play was starting to unfold. Why would you take out your best runner and not run at the Chiefs in that situation? So he gifted it right back to him. Now, Thornhill made a nice play on the edge. The Chiefs did their part. Overall, the Chiefs, this is the most important thing. The Chiefs are by far the best team in the division, and that is important. The greatest indicator when you talk about next season, etc., is how do you do in your division games. You can be a 500 team, Danny, in the NFL if you're better than the teams in your division. You've got to win your division. That's just the number one thing. And right now you look around that they're dominating them. Andy Reid is beating them like a drum, winning 5 out of 6 or 6 straight games every time they play. That's awesome. Every time you intimidate them like this, remember it was supposed to be a big game and a real opportunity for the Raiders. This affects them down the line.
Yeah.
They look at the Chiefs' helmets and go,
especially who's going to play quarterback? Probably Derek Carr.
And then you look at the quarterback situation with Denver, the Raiders, and the Chargers. You're looking at not only do you have Patrick Mahomes, but no matter who your quarterback is, if it were Alex Smith, you just go, who's got the best quarterback in the division? Who's the one that we can rely on? Only the Chiefs have a quarterback who can rely on week after week, and you got the best coach. And so it really looks. It was important to crush those guys. I mean, it really was nice to break their spirit because they are dangerous. If they started playing better, the Raiders have some components that will work. But right now, John Gruden is on that tipping point. I said when he came back, Danny, that I was not worried about him. I don't think he's a modern football guru. And 10 years ago, I thought he was good. He won a Super Bowl. He got his teams up. Not great in my mind, but I'll tell you what, worthy of respect. But the game's changed over the last 10 years. I did not get worried when he walked in. For instance, if Urban Meyer walks in and starts coaching so-and-so, I would say, watch out, everybody else in the league in college. I didn't think that about Gruden. But he's gaining some momentum, doing some things right. This is a crushing blow to the whole system. To his coaching tenure at the Raiders has been pushed back a bunch because they got ripped by the Jets and they just got crushed by the Chiefs. No hope of the division, not a playoff team. And guess what? Now they get to go to a new city. And when teams have had to go to new cities, it has been a hard transition for them. So this was big. Great job, Chiefs. Now they made themselves the division champs, no doubt about it. There's a little bit of momentum, belief in the defense. Again, that's not bad.
The reason it's so important to win your division can be seen if you just look at the playoff picture right now. The Bills have a better record, and they would be coming here as the way it's stacked up now. You can argue whether that should be the case or not, but it is. For instance, the NFC East winner is going to get
have the
home,
worst
home
record
playoff
of
game.
All 6 playoff teams.
Right, and
but they get a home game.
The NFC East is 6-23 outside of their division this year. I mean,
I know.
far and away the worst team. Let's talk about the Chiefs' next matchup, which is the Patriots, and the Patriots are an intriguing discussion. First of all, just tell me what you see that they are not able to do on offense.
Well,
is it personnel? Their personnel doesn't look particularly good.
Right, and Brady is not quite as flawless with everything he's doing, but you can't say it's bad. I mean, he still is delivering a lot of good footballs, but all he has is Edelman to go to right now. The rest of the guys really aren't detaching away from the defenders very well. They're not making the catches when you've got to make them. Last night they went for fourth down, and they decided not to quarterback sneak it, which is the biggest upset ever because he's the best probably ever at quarterback sneaking, and they didn't do it. They threw a pass, and sure enough, he delivers the ball, and the receiver drops it. That's what you don't normally see.
Right.
That's
a huge momentum play.
Yeah, normally he'd be more open, but that's fine. Brady said, okay, you're not that open, but I'll give you the ball out in front, away from the defender. Just catch it, and we got a first down. Drops the football. So there's some frustration going on. Injuries on the offensive line have mattered. They got their left tackle back, but then their center got hurt. And I think that their offensive line really are mental magicians. I mean, I think they really understand where the blitz pressures are going to come from and how the twist game works. And those plays I have always said, Danny, sacks and drives, okay? Because you lose the yardage and the down, and then you make the quarterback think, because he doesn't like getting hit. Then he's thinking his clock gets readjusted. It demoralizes the offensive line. I really do believe you get a sack, more than likely they're going to punt. If that wasn't third down, they're going to punt now.
Now, here in Kansas City, what we've seen the last couple of years, especially last year, was that the Chiefs overcame all these ludicrous down and distance situations. But that's not the norm.
Yeah,
and it hasn't been the norm for them this year either.
Yeah, and Patrick's unbelievable because when I watch the Chiefs break the huddle on 3rd and 12, I go 50-50.
Right.
That's supposed to be like 3rd and 3 is 50-50. But Patrick Mahomes, and he has a lot of weapons, and Andy Reid. But right now, the Patriots, they're struggling on every down. Nothing's easy. They can't get the ball to tight end. But that doesn't mean that they still can't work through it because their defense has been really good.
They were even good in the game yesterday. It was just things
they've been
happened.
Record-breaking most games. They got ripped by the Ravens. The Texans made some plays on them. But they're so sound in special teams and defense. They're a different made-up team than they were last year. Last year, their defense was not that great. And they showed you that they could scheme their way to some success in the first half, holding the Chiefs to no points, but then 30 points in the second half. They couldn't do anything about it. So this team's changed tremendously. They've morphed into a new type of team, relying on their defense. But this is a big chance for the Chiefs. This is the kind of matchup you need because the Patriots can present a great defense, and all that does for the Chiefs is say, okay, I mean, we may not score every possession, but we can make plays against anybody. The Chiefs need an offense that has their hand tied behind their back. That is helpful, and the Patriots are that. So now you go in there and you say the New England Patriots haven't lost at home on their field since 2017. So how much of that home field factor matters? But I think we've seen Andy Reid go in there, and the Chiefs have no problem floating into New England and not being intimidated. They weren't the last team to beat them, but they did beat them on that beginning of the year Hunt coming out party, if you remember, Danny. I think they lost maybe the next week and haven't lost since. So how much does the home field matter? One of the most intriguing things to me, this is kind of a crazy thought, and I'm fighting myself, so I'm just going to expose it to you, Danny, and see what you think. Bill Belichick, calculus thinking. Is there any chance that when he played the Texans or the Chiefs this week that he doesn't show them what he wants to show them? Is there any chance that he says, I want to wait and save my best stuff for the playoff game?
Dangerous game, I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, you are all taught to win every game. But when you're Bill Belichick and you go, I'm pretty sure that we could win this game without showing them my best stuff. Why would I want to expose to Andy Reid what I want to do against Tyreek Hill?
I could believe. You know what?
Thinking.
I could believe that scenario potentially if the Patriots had won the game against the Texans.
They'd have enough working room,
right?
Because, like you said, Buffalo's on their heels,
right?
That's why rule number one for the greatest of the greats is take care of business this week and win the game. So that's why I'm spinning in my head so much, Danny, because I go, Bill Belichick, come on, man, he's got to be. You haven't met him. I'm talking to myself here. I've never met him, but I know some core issues about how guys win. He has got to go full bore to win this game because that's what he believes. But then I think, what about, does Bill Belichick really say we're not that good and we got to have our most special plan available for the playoffs? You mentioned the big thing. I think now that they got to be concerned about the Bills, what they did to the Cowboys. They play them. And so there's a lot at stake because you don't win your division, and they play the Bills head-to-head here soon. You don't win your division, and you fall to the 4 seed in a snap of the fingers. So the Patriots got a chance for the number 1 seed or the number 4 seed. They probably can't mess around with it. But I think it's a great matchup. I really feel good about the Chiefs. They have a big-time chance to go in and beat New England. There's no reason for them to be embarrassed about, we can't stop the run. We're on the road. None of those things. They match up really well with the Patriots.
And the Chiefs really kind of need the win. I mean, if they lose, they're going on the road in the second playoff game if they win the first one. So it's a very big game.
And they have to play an extra one for sure because
right.
they have an outside chance to be the number 2 seed.
Yes, they still do.
As crazy as it is, if they beat New England, they got a possibility of being the number 1 seed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Ravens could lose. If the Ravens lose 2 and the Chiefs win out, and the Chiefs can win, if they beat New England, the Chiefs should win out.
But
and then the Patriots.
But the Ravens and the Texans both, of course, hold a tiebreaker against the Chiefs. So
so the Chiefs could be the 4 seed in a snap of the finger.
Absolutely.
The 2, 1 maybe, 3 most likely. Hey, the NFL's awesome. There's reason to keep playing all the way through the finish line.
No doubt. We'll talk college football coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code ClinkScale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Time for college football now with Stan Weber on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, and we'll talk first about the Missouri Tigers situation. Apparently the Missouri Tigers were playing with a lame duck coach on Friday because Jim Sturck said the decision had been made 24 to 48 hours before he announced it. Not that surprising, and I think that actually is a pretty good sign because I don't think the Arkansas game should have had anything to do with his evaluation, although I guess if you hadn't really made a decision, then they went out to loss to Arkansas, that they would have just confirmed it. But now the Missouri Tigers have to look to the future. And we talked about it on College Game Day the other day on Sports Radio 810, our final program of the year the other day. And thankfully, we get to continue on with our podcast here all the way through the Super Bowl.
You get to decide on that one.
Yes, I get. I'm the boss on that one.
We're on for next week. Then?
Oh,
you already telling me?
Yes.
Wow.
We're on for next.
We're not
week.
on a 1 week contract.
No, we're on till the Super Bowl and beyond. But anyway, so the point you made is the best one. We all think that it was probably the right thing to terminate Barry Odom, but it wasn't any kind of slam dunk. Barry Odom hadn't done a horrendous job. It wasn't super obvious. He hadn't won 8 games in 4 years or something like that. It's the next coach that matters. Right now, I'm not seeing any names out there that are actually, really floating my boat, but I was of the feeling that Barry Odom had to be terminated, but Jim Sturck has a real job on his hands. There's quite a few openings. For instance, the team he just played, Arkansas, they need a coach. They got a lot of money. They're in the Southeast Conference too. They got a lot of pressure. They haven't won in a while now, and it's embarrassing how they've played recently. So there's a lot of competition out there. Big job for Jim Sturck.
Yeah, I think the most important job that an athletic director has is hiring the head football coach. Then after that, the men's basketball coach. And if you do those two things well, you can tell me all you want about how great a fundraiser they are, how many buildings they build, but I can tell you why the money flows. It's when you win. So you can get the money if you win, and that's what is the hardest part of your job, picking the right guy. Because when you give them the job, you don't get to go have much of an influence. You don't get to be the general manager. When the general manager is involved in hiring the head football coach in the NFL, at least he still gets to pick the players,
right? And
work with the coach and say, I think I'd rather have a big outside linebacker than I would a fast wide receiver. I mean, at least you get to have the discussion. Man, when in college football, you just hand everything over to that guy and say, I hope I made the right choice.
Yep.
And I'll probably talk to him once a week, but you pretty much got to bite your tongue. If you have a good coach, he doesn't want to hear it from you.
Right.
ADs do not have the right to talk to the best coaches about any suggestions. Does that make sense? I mean, it's over.
Maybe whether it does or it doesn't, it's your reality.
I mean, it's the expectation.
Yep.
Right? The norm. Hey, great to see you. Let's talk for a second. And you just say, I hope things are going well, a couple administrative things. Joe, I hear Joe's got a few problems in class. You need our academic people to help you a little bit, whatever. And when the football coach says, I got it, see you later, okay. You are so reliant. You get to sign that first contract, and then you sit over to the sideline and be their friend and supporter. So it's a giant decision, and it's not easy. And you don't get to do an average of, hey, I'll pick my 5 best candidates, and we'll do God will come down and play them out, and I'll probably pick 4 out of the 5 right. No, it's only the one. So no, it's not an easy decision. The good news is, because there's a lot of people around here that are Missouri fans that I talk to who have a lot of skepticism, about what's not going to go right for Ole Mizzou. The thing is when you pull that checkbook out and you're starting with $3+ million a year or more to give that coach an opportunity, you're going to catch a lot of people's eye. Okay, maybe not a sitting head coach at so-and-so university. I'll mention a name, for instance, Mark Stoops.
Right.
Mark Stoops is at Kentucky. He's doing a very nice job. It's the SEC. It's the SEC East. He's got his program. He's got his recruits, but it's totally a basketball school. Is there a chance that Mark Stoops would consider a Missouri? So in that case, the money wouldn't matter so much. I mean, he's getting paid a ton of money, so are you going to catch his attention?
Right.
That is a question. But for any great assistant out there, any assistant you want, who's saying, look at me, I'm making $750,000. No, $3+ million, and you can be the head guy. They're not going to say, well, I don't think I want to go to Mizzou. For what reason?
Right.
No. So don't worry about that. You hear some of that, don't you, Danny?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I don't know who Mizzou's going to get. Well, any assistant coach they want, they'll be able to get, and that the guy will be so excited. Now, what head coaches? We're going to have to see. But again, it's not an easy decision to know who the right guy is at the right time. And I'm just sitting back waiting. I don't know. But to me, it's easy for me to say I have no problem with you or anybody else saying, I think Barry Odom wasn't going to take him to the next level, to the Gary Pinkel level, and that's why we're letting him go. Not overreacting to this year, just looking at the future. Don't think he's going to be able to get it done. I have no problem with that. He has no track record coming in that says, oh, let's give him time. He wasn't a head coach. I don't think he's been a dominant defensive coordinator. But the guy went 6-6 and is getting run out of town. Wait a second. 4-8 is in play, Danny. You don't stop at 6, okay? As the schedule gets harder, we don't look no further than Nebraska. Who ever thought Scott Frost would not make it to a bowl game 2 years in a row? 2 years in a row, Danny. And guess what 2 it is? His first. 0-2. Everyone thought he was the perfect candidate, but he hasn't yet got over the hump at Nebraska. And guess what? 5 wins and 4 wins and things like that are in play. If they're in play at Nebraska, 3 straight years now not going to a bowl game, they're in play at Missouri. My point is, you said it well for me, tell me who the next coach is.
Right.
I may have wished Barry Odom kept posting 7 and 8 win seasons and slipped all the way down to a 6 once in a while. That may not be bad. We'll see. Sturck's got the pressure on him. And it sounded like he listened to the alumni a lot. And it seemed like with his statement, I'm overreacting because I read his statement. He could have said 1,000 things, but because he said, well, we lost momentum with the boosters.
We had the South Stand. We spent this money.
That sounds too much like the boosters said, I've had enough. What they should be asking is the way I think you said it very well, and the opportunities I've had you talk about it, is Barry Odom a guy that's going to take him to the next level? That's the real question. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about what he did the last couple of years. Is he the guy that's going to turn it around? And I have no problem saying there's no magic. I never saw any magic with Barry Odom that post 9 and 10 wins, slip to 8 or 7 once in a while, maybe get 11 or 12. I don't think that's in play. But that doesn't mean the next guy at Mizzou is going to do this. It still is the SEC that you're competing in. Okay?
Yeah,
They're kind of good at football.
Yeah, they are indeed. Kind of good at football is Kansas State this year. They post their 8th win. They do it against an Iowa State team coached by a hotshot coach who, probably had a little shine taken off.
Missouri people might like to hear Matt Campbell coming to Mizzou.
And maybe the fact that his season.
I'm not saying he would. I'm just saying, would they be excited?
Oh, I think they would be excited.
And in K-State,
although a little shine came off, maybe teams don't want to now pay. It's a $6 million buyout.
I'm just saying Matt Campbell's a big deal.
Yeah.
He's coaching the heck out of that football team. They are really good. And what you thought is a more advanced version today of what K-State has been and wants to be, and it wasn't true.
Right?
K-State was the better team.
They were the better
down after down after down.
And also down after down after down without playing contemporary football. I mean, the quarterback wasn't very good, and they didn't really try to lean on him in any way, shape, or form. They just played good, sound football, ran the football, and solidly pulled away in a game that really, with the entire arc of things, you're like, okay, this game's in the hat midway through the third quarter. Iowa State's a little better. They'll probably win. And K-State won comfortably.
Yeah, no, this is impressive. When they won their 7th game, and the season included winning at Mississippi State and against Oklahoma and against Kansas on the road, there's just nothing other than a big smile on anybody's face to say, you mean they just transitioned in coaches? They didn't go to a bowl game last year? It's a super season. But then you go out and play Iowa State. In the weather conditions, it just said it's kind of lowest common denominator. Let's take all the fluff and excitement off and what your name is on the helmet. Iowa State's not a sexy name for college game day to talk about, the TV version, not us, Danny.
Yeah.
But you just say, wow, how good are they? Then you suddenly go, wait a second, their whole offensive line are seniors. Their quarterback is really good. Their running back is averaging 114 yards a game. It's a freshman from Wichita who just started the last half of the season. So he's on a pace to being one of the best backs in the Big 12 since he's been given a chance. And then your defense is maybe the best in the Big 12. So what's the lowest common denominator? Cold weather. I was used to that. Well-coached, tough, physical, smart, capabilities of winning.
I think the win hurt them probably more than it did K-State.
Yeah, because they want to throw more than K-State. But their defense is so hard to run against.
Right.
And K-State ran when they needed to and controlled the game. My point is that there is no reason other than to say Iowa State's good, and K-State beat them. So that's not only the 8th win, K-State beat them.
Right.
And I said going into the last 4 games, there was some thought after K-State had won against Kansas and Oklahoma to go, they might be able to get to the playoff of the Big 12. And it's like, geez, the next 4 games are going to be dead even. I don't know how you could possibly think you're going to go 4-0. 0-4 is in play. But, yeah, hey, let's just be really statistical about this. I do some things with numbers. They're probably going to finish 2-2. And they did. But it happened so backwards. When you go 0-2 and 2 close losses and you're so pained and it looks like you run out of the momentum to bounce back and do what they did. They were the underdogs both the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. They did the things that they need to do. And the special teams continue to be dominant, which is really great for K-State. When you look at K-State football, different than Iowa State football, the lowest common denominator for K-State's near Iowa State. But Iowa State's never been as dominant on returns the way K-State did. And for them to get their 4th, which ties the all-time K-State record, 2015 and 99, pretty incredible. But 8 wins to beat Iowa State the way they did, and now a big chance to practice a little bit more, go to a bowl game.
And a good bowl game.
You know, I was asked at the beginning of the year, not necessarily by you, Danny, but the question was, how would you define success for K-State this season? Didn't go to a bowl game last year, new coach. Everyone thinks they're under-talented and all of that. I said, I want to know at the end of the year what the plan is. I want to be able to define what Chris Kleiman wants to do to win games. I want to be able to say that when I go to the offseason and not have it be random of how they won here and lost there. What are they trying to accomplish? What is the plan? And then when you have a plan, you can execute on it. It's easier for the fans to understand it. It's definitely easier for the players. Well, guess what? He has done that in A-plus fashion. We all know how he wants to win football games. And, oh, by the way, he's getting it done. So, obviously, it's a giant successful season for K-State.
No question about that. We've talked on multiple occasions about how the stretch run would sort of define Kansas and how their season is viewed. You can't take away the positives. If you're on team miles, you can definitely find those. But to go out and just get walloped like they did on Saturday and have the game end or in the third quarter, by the reports I was reading, I stopped watching. There were like dozens of fans were all that were left in the stands. Is a miserable way to end a season that had some positives. And Les Miles almost immediately moved on and said, "Well, we're going to go out there and get recruiting. Don't look at don't look over there with the game we just played." So it definitely tarnished things a little bit.
It did. When you're really, really hungry, I don't care what food you put before that person, they're going to be appreciative of it and be all bought in. And that's really the way I would look at the KU players. When Les Miles walked in, he had a big reputation, big ring. He shows them cute ways of saying things. I loved when he said, "Well, today we got second place," when they lost a game. I mean, it was really, really well done for a fragile group of players. You know, this isn't the season. You just came in second place today. Let's get back to work. But you only have so many chances before their stomach gets full and they start saying, "What are you serving me?"
Right.
You know, the worst vegetable in the world doesn't necessarily taste good, and you're going, "Well, just a few weeks ago you were starving. Why are you griping now?" Because we're human. We forget fast. That's the nicest way I can say, Danny, of what you've got to understand, that the players lose confidence in their leaders faster than anybody. We think we know what goes on, and we think we can evaluate when there are problems. They create problems or make little bitty seeds, big plants, by fertilizing it. So you only have so long to keep saying, "Stick with me. I've done it before. I've done it at LSU. I'm telling you, at training table," and there's a lot of time spent in apartments playing video games where there's a group of 4 or 10 or 12 players. And if you could have a mic in there, Miles to Go ought to go stick the mics into what the players are saying when they're playing video games, because they'll be the first to say, "Well, I know he wanted LSU, and I could see where he'd be successful. I look around the room, and none of you dudes would ever play for LSU." And I can hear my smart-ass friends saying that, and I was there. Right. No one's really trying to be mean, but they would look around and go, "None of you dudes would ever play for LSU, and I know I wouldn't. So if you think that stuff's going to work here,
Right.
Or then the offensive coordinator, it looked all great when everything went right against this team, but then we got stuffed, and
there was no plan B. And
so how long can he continue to say, "Stick with me, guys, it's going to be okay"? When the season ends, that is your best chance during the season. Things don't get more positive in the off season, but there's a chance because they're so starved that they're looking for any help they can get that maybe they'll stick with Les Miles. But we're down to a thread now, Danny. I said the Baylor game was the game that could give it strength. If you played well in the Baylor game, you're playing against a great team, unfortunately, super motivated to show off to the College Football Playoff Committee. That was my scare of it. They weren't going to sleepily come in here. But when Baylor came, if you put together what they did against Iowa State, that was a very impressive Kansas performance. If you could put together something positive, then that's what we remember, the Boston College win, Texas Tech, and we'd be okay. But they got crushed. And let me tell you, those players are sitting there going, did you see how many fans? And there's going to be some third-string guy who's sitting over there and going, yeah, I counted them. There are 433 people. You're like, what do you mean you counted them? Well, I wasn't going to play, so I counted them. That's the kind of cute ugliness that happens. Mm-hmm. So it tipped the wrong way. The momentum is really, really questionable. And the old, I'm going to recruit out of this, does not make the team feel better, okay? When you say, we're going to recruit out of this, you are cutting down every one of your players. Right. That's the way they take it. We're not good enough, huh? So those 25 kids you're going to sign, your guys, are really what's going to turn Kansas football around. Next year, the first couple of games, I haven't looked ahead to see what the schedule is, Danny, but, put those in bold red letters. You cannot mess around and lose to a Coastal Carolina because Les Miles can have what happened to Charlie Weiss happen to him, where the players go, you tell me what's different. Kansas football trumps Les Miles magic, and it's right there. So hopefully he'll recruit well. Hopefully the players will stick with him. Maybe that because they have had no hope that they'll try to find reason, but I thought that last game really mattered, and it was a dud.
And I asked you a difficult football question a couple of weeks ago on College Game Day, which was the Air Force quarterback who missed the football game because he had the Rhodes Scholar interview. And I will ask you another difficult football-type question from Saturday regarding Kansas. Carter Stanley took himself voluntarily out of the game and talked about it after the game in the third quarter. He said he wanted Manny Miles to have the chance for his senior moment. Sounds like a nice story. But the guy voluntarily took him out of his last football game. What do you think?
I have not heard the story yet, so it's a great question. Did Carter Stanley...
Yeah, he volunteered to do it.
He volunteered?
Yeah.
Did he volunteer, or did they tell him that you ought to say this?
The way the story was written anyway was that he voluntarily took him out of the football game, saying that he wanted Manny Miles to have the opportunity to have a senior day moment.
Yeah, that, for me, if that's the facts. Now, what concerns me is the facts. Okay, and I think Carter Stanley's been pretty open about his quotes have seemed to be from his heart, not as told to him by the staff. Okay, so I'm going to work the best I can with what you just told me. If Carter Stanley chose to do that and said that's why he's coming out of the game, then there's no issue with me at all. I just look at thumbs up completely. The other one you had about going to your Rhodes Scholar interview or playing in your last football game because it got rescheduled.
Right.
That's how the conflict occurred. No one was trying to create any problem right there. That was a hard dilemma for me. I was very on the fence. Even when I finished the answer, I was on the fence. This one's very easy. Totally
I just thought maybe the competitor in you would think.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's truly.
Me too. I thought that's what I took out of it.
I'm glad you asked me because my answer might be a little crazy, like you fight to the very, very end and all that. But no, his career had worked out well. He got a chance to play through ups and downs and be the quarterback all year. And for him to have an appreciation for another guy who was a senior when the game had absolutely no chance, for him to sacrifice the snaps, okay? And I understand the word sacrifice, okay? That's where my crazy comes in that you're looking for. My daughter played her last volleyball game on Saturday, and it was her last volleyball game. I mean, she can do all kinds of stuff the rest of her life. She's only, 22 years old, but my wife and I were watching on TV, and I was saying, watch this. This is the last time of all those years of working out, going to games, playing all these sports. This is the last time she's ever going to get a chance to go out there with a real uniform and play, and it meant a big deal. So if you'd have said, well, why doesn't she play 5 or 10 less points? My emotion is I tell my wife, watch, this is the last time she's ever going to be on the court right here. So I understand where you could come from, but in this case, I just think that is a great heart. I mean, I've been a Carter Stanley fan a long time.
You have.
I've been supporting him from afar all the way back to his freshman year. Is that he's a guy that you can count on. He's a guy you can win with. He's not perfectly athletically, but I tell you what, he's a leader, he's a fighter, and this way shows that he's got a great heart as well. So I'm just all thumbs up. You gave me an easy one this time. No dilemma.
All right, there you go. Stan Weber with the final word. And, of course, it's not the final word of the season. As we continue on, as fascinating stories will play out with the Chiefs, college football, and the Missouri coaching search, all as we talk football on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.